Hello, we're just going to have a short video here to show you how to add a footer to your assignments. The syllabus states that you need to make sure all of your assignments are labeled with, your name, the module number, things like that. So each one needs to be labeled properly for full credit. If you don't, then you lose points. We don't want you to lose points over a footer. I'm not the only instructor that requires a footer. In fact, I put this requirement on my students because the other CIS 102 instructors require a footer, and we try to keep the classes as consistent as possible. And I know other instructors in different departments require footers on your documents and your reports and your papers and things of that nature. So we just want to get you started in CIS 102 so that it becomes and stays a mainstay in all of your homework. So with that said, we're gonna jump right into it. We're gonna start Word. And we're going to pretend that we've edited the document that we're supposed to edit and we're ready to submit it, but we have to put our footer on first. So here we are. The easiest way, the easiest error-free way to add a footer is to click Insert and go to the header and footer group and click Footer and then choose the very first one. Okay. That gives us some placeholder text, and it says type here. So if you think back to the templates that we were talking about yesterday at the beginning of Module 4, then you'll understand what placeholder text is. And it's just text that is there temporarily. You don't want it to remain there. If you're not going to use it, you want to get it out of there. If you're going to replace it, you want to replace it, but you don't want it there. So at this point we have type here showing at the bottom of our footer. And we want to get that out of there because we don't want type here there. So we're just going to click the delete button and see it goes away. It was all highlighted already. So by default, it's highlighted when you add the footer. And you also notice that we have a header and footer tools design tab here. So we see footer, so we're down in our footer. If we had text in our document, it would be grayed out because we can't edit the document while the footer's open, and we can't edit the footer while the document's open. So there are two distinct sections within the document, okay? So we've got this header and footer tools. I'm going to go ahead and close this. We haven't made any changes. Another way to access the footer area instead of going to insert is to simply come down here to the bottom of the page and click. Okay, that's another way. You'll also notice that type here did not appear. We simply opened the header and footer. And so now we see the header and footer tools design tab here. We're back into the footer. A couple different ways you can do that. Microsoft does this for a consumer preference. Some people would rather go to insert and click the footer and then click that footer in the gallery. And others, they just want to double click at the bottom and be done with it. So just a couple different ways. So let's look at the second page of the packet that I gave you on the first day, which is the assignment schedule. And it breaks it down. It breaks it down on January 3rd, we're doing this. On January 4th, we're doing this. These are the assignments that are going to be turned in. This is the date and the time that those assignments need to be submitted to Canvas. Okay. In order to submit them, then we need to have that footer on there. You're going to lose points, and we don't want that to happen. So let's flip that over and look at the bottom. And it says, to receive full credit, each assignment must include a footer with your name, module, and the file name given in the instruction. 1 full letter grade will be deducted for assignments not labeled properly. Now, if you lose points for a footer, I'm going to let you know that, and you can always fix that to gain those points back, okay? At the very bottom, it says, they want your name, the CIS 102 12 p.m., the module, the assignment, and then the name of the file. Okay, so let's do that. I want this to be right aligned. So I want this to be at the right side at the bottom of your document. When we get into Excel and PowerPoint, we'll talk about putting footers in those types of files. But for now, we're just dealing with Word. We can right align a couple different ways. For me, the easiest is a keyboard shortcut, which is Control plus the letter R. Okay, I'm going to undo that. So right now my cursor is flashing right here. My insertion point is at the left margin of my footer. If I press Control and R, it jumps over to the right margin of my footer. Okay, I'm gonna undo that again. I could also come over here to the Home tab and click the right align button. So align right, I have in parentheses Control plus R. That's the keyboard shortcut for aligning text to the right. Now we don't align everything to the right, just the footer. Small blocks of text are okay, but you don't want to right align everything. We don't read that way, okay? So we are gonna right align that footer. So we're gonna Control R, and here we go. So now I'm gonna start typing, and as I type, my text is going to flow to the left. My insertion point is gonna stay at that rightmost spot. It's not gonna move. So here we go. It wants your name. So this is your actual name. You're not going to type Y-O-U-R space N-A-M-E. Don't laugh. I've had students do that, but you are actually typing your name. I, however, for this illustration purpose, am going to type your name, okay? Your name. Space, dash, space. CIS 102 12 p.m. So this first line is going to have your name and the class that you're in. And the reason I do that is it kind of gives it a block look when it's complete, rather than having, just a short amount of information at the top and then, a longer amount of information in the middle. Kind of gives it a blocky look. And sometimes I have more than one CIS 102 class, so it's easier for me to keep track if I have to print these out. Now I'm going to press Enter. My text is going to move up. My cursor is going to fall down to the next line. Okay, so you see how that happened there? It kind of moved up. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit too. So the next line, I want you to put the module that we're working in, or the module that the assignment belongs to, and then the assignment type or the name. So for example, we're in module 4, so I'm going to type Word module 4 space dash space, and the first assignment is a work through. Okay, so if we take a look back at the schedule of assignments, you'll notice that we have, work through, and then concepts review, and skills review, and independent challenge 1, independent challenge 2, visual workshop. That's the name of the assignment. It's not the name of the file. The name of the file is going to be on the third line. So, you've got Word module 4. If it's the skills review, then we're going to type skills review. Oops, skills review. If it's the independent challenge, you don't have to type independent challenge out. You can type IC1 or IC2 or IC3, whichever independent challenge it is. If it's the visual workshop, then you're going to type visual workshop. Okay? We're going to go back to the work through. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and press Enter, and on the third line, we want the name of the file as directed in the book. So the work through for module 4 is named 4-recipe winner letter. Okay. Now you can put the .docx or not. It doesn't matter. On the example, on the bottom of the schedule of assignments, it shows the .docx, but that's not required. If you put it there, it's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. Don't have a problem with it either way. So now that we've got that entered, we can edit it a little bit. If you have a one-page document and it looks great, and then you add your footer, and then all of a sudden you've got a line on a second page, or 2 lines on a second page. You're like, man, I need to bring that back up, because you will get pointed off, or get points off if you don't. A lot of these documents are 1 page only, so if you have a second page, even if it only has a couple of words, you're going to get counted off. And sometimes your footer can cause that to happen. So we're in the footer, and you can see we've got a little bit of space here between the bottom of the page and the bottom of the footer text, right? So we're going to come back up here to the Header and Footer Tools Design tab, and we're going to look at the position group, and here we have footer from bottom, and it says specify the distance from the bottom of the page to the bottom of the footer. Okay, well that kind of looks like what we're jumping for. And so it says 0.5 inches. So it's saying that from the bottom of this text to the bottom of the page, I have a 1/2 inch. And I want to make this smaller. So I can press this down arrow, and it's going to decrease it by 1/10 inch. So if I click it, it's going to go down to 0.4, and then 0.3, and then 0.2. I wouldn't go any smaller than 0.2 inches because sometimes it's difficult for a printer to print when you have text so close to the bottom of your page, or around any edge, really. And we're not going to print any of these, but you are going to be using this in other classes where you will need to print. So don't go any smaller than 0.2 inches. If you go any smaller than that, you're probably going to get a pop-up that says, you know, your text is really close to your margins, or really close to the edge of the paper. Are you sure you want to print it? Because you could lose information. So it could cut, you know, half of this off. It just depends on the printer and how close it can actually print to that edge of the page. So we're not going to go any smaller than 0.2 inches. So we have our footer. We can close the footer here, and then we are back in our document. We've got our footer down here. Here's our document. We're ready to go. We have to save it, and then we're going to submit it. So each assignment needs this. We can actually do something so that you don't have to retype all of this information each and every time. So I'm going to go back into the footer, and I can do that by double-clicking on the footer. Now I'm back into the footer. You cannot edit your document while your footer is open, and you can't edit your footer while the document part is open. So if we had some text here, it would be grayed out. We would not be able to do anything with it while we have our Header and Footer Tools Design tab open. Okay. So in this instance, we're going to go ahead and select the text. We're going to save this footer so that we can reuse it over and over and over again. Okay. So I'm going to select the text, and then with this open, we're going to come over here to footer, and I'm going to tell it that I want to save the selection to the footer gallery. So I'm going to click this. A box pops up that says create a new building block. And we're going to name this homework. Okay. We're not going to change any of the other information. All the other information is going to stay the same. We're going to change it to homework, and we're going to click OK. So now we've saved this. Theoretically, now, whenever you have a document that you want to put this information into, you can go in and tell it to insert. So let's just do that. I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to go to File and New and Blank Document. Again, we're going to pretend like we've edited a document and we're ready to add that footer. We're going to go to Insert. Now, you have to use Insert when you have a footer gallery selection. So we're going to go to Insert. We're going to go to Footer. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom where it says Homework. See, it says General and Homework. This is the homework footer that we just saved. So you've got your name, you've got the class, so you don't have to retype that. Then you have Word Module 4. So if we're still in Word Module 4, you don't have to retype that. But then we're going to change. We're just going to edit some information. So now the work through, we're going to change that to the concepts review, or we're going to change that to the skills review, or we're going to change that to the independent challenge, whichever assignment you're working on. And then, of course, we're going to go ahead and edit the file name on the very bottom. So we would change this to skills review. Actually, let's do concepts review. Concepts review. I always spell that wrong. Concepts review. And then down here, we'd say this is the module for concepts. review. Okay. So this is what the concepts review is going to look like. And then again, we'd have like skills review. And I don't know what the name of the skills review assignment is without looking it up. So we're not going to go there. But you understand that that could save you a little time. Save you a little time. Subsequently, after you have saved this as a footer gallery selection, it's going to give you, I'm going to tell it not to save because I don't want to save that, but it's going to give you a pop-up that says, you have modified styles, building blocks such as cover pages or headers or other content that is stored in buildingblocks.dotx. Now that's exactly what we did. Do you want to save changes to buildingblocks.dotx? And if you tell it not to save, that footer gallery goes away. That selection that you created in the footer gallery goes away. If you tell it to save, that footer will be available to you to use on other assignments after the fact. One caveat is on campus, this won't save. If you make changes to the system and then you turn the computer off or you are log off of your profile, then it reverts back to what it was when you first turned it on. We have a program called Deep Freeze on there, so they don't want you to make a lot of changes. So it won't work on campus, but it will work if you're at home. So if you're at home on your computer doing your homework in Word 2016 and you want to save the header, or I'm sorry, the footer, you can do that and it'll be there each time you go into it. So just be mindful that when you're done with it and you close it, if you don't tell it to save, that footer selection goes away. So basically that is how to add a footer to your document. Short video, almost 17 minutes. Sorry it went a little over. A couple other things I went over as well. Just think you should know them. If you have any questions, please be sure to contact me. Message me via Canvas or email. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, have a nice day and see you in class.